I haven't talked about this before, and as I thought about it, I was like, I'm surprised that I haven't done it yet by in all this time. Boundaries with marijuana smokers. So, a majority of Americans and people in many other countries, Western place civilization, Western countries, think that marijuana usage is less harmful than alcohol. And a lot of young people think that it's should be as, no big deal. Like I grew up and actually I grew up with pot and alcohol, but that it's pretty normalized. And so you drink beer, you smoke a joint, it's pretty accepted as a valid, okay form of recreation and relaxation. In fact, like you can't smoke in a lot of places in public, but you're allowed to smoke pot in public. And it always seems kind of weird to me. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, or not too long ago, and for a family thing, and we were at a hotel right across the street from what they call a dispensary. It was huge, and I was shocked because from about early afternoon until early in the morning, it was 24 hours, 7 days a week open until I stay up late till very early in the like 1 o'clock, and then I didn't notice anymore. There was a continual line of cars going to the drive-up window and also parked in the parking lot. There are probably 30 cars in the parking lot, and there are probably 30 cars parked in the drive-up window just continually. And not there in the morning, early morning. They were all sleeping, I think. But I was very surprised. I mean, and so it's legal in, I think, most states. First of all, was medical marijuana was legalized first, and there's a difference between the CBD, which is the part that just helps like the pain, and the THC, which is the part that gets you high. CBD and THC to deal with pain and anxiety and depression came before the legalization for just recreational use for anybody. But the studies don't support the widespread use and legalization. So what prompted this article was I read what's called a meta study. And I'm going to put link to the article that I read about the meta study, which was a study of about 99 studies over years, looking at what are the trends, what do they actually show? And this author was writing about what it actually showed. And the data is pretty strong now that chronic marijuana use has caused an increase in the levels of physical, psychological addiction, and also in cases of psychosis, psychotic breaks, and schizophrenia. Some who were triggered into that by even just one use of very strong pot. One of that reasons is that in the 70s, pot was 1 to 3% THC level, and today it is a 15 to 30% THC level. That is a shocking increase, about a 50% increase. That is really strong levels of THC, which have a very profound effect. Anxiety and depression have long since thought that pot would help them. The studies are starting to indicate that it's kind of shaky as to whether or not it helps, and is some evidence to show that it might actually make it worse. Studies also show that long-term chronic pot smoking leads to lasting cognitive impairment, including memory problems, learning problems, and problems with motivation and attention. Also, behavioral changes include the motivation and lethargy. And I think probably everyone listening probably knows somebody that they've seen that happen in their life. Chronic users also exhibit what's called brain fog, and physical problems are lots of chronic cough, bronchitis, and lung infections. So it's very damaging to lungs. Cigarettes there's no warning labels on them and on pot for smoking pot, and yet it's very bad for your lungs. And especially when you vape, which adds even more chemicals. Early use starting in adolescence increases the likelihood of permanent damage because brain is not fully developed until your middle to late 20s. So adolescents that start smoking pot are impacting not only their brain, but the formation of their brain and the growth of new brain cells. So uh, as I'm writing this devotion, I think it comes as no surprise to parents, spouses, partners, and siblings and friends of people who are smoking pot that it does have negative effects, not only on the person, but on the relationship. And just like illegal drug use, alcohol use, and prescription drug use, there are serious ramifications. Not for everyone. Some people can drink alcohol every day and put it down after one drink and not get addicted. Not my family, not with my genetics and my family, which is strong propensity towards addiction. But some people can, and some people won't or have strong. I mean, every once in a while you hear somebody who's 110 years old and they say, how have you done it? How have you lived that long? And they're like, my bourbon every day and my cigar. And it's like, only genetics. That's the only difference. So I can't say for everybody, can't say that everybody that smokes pot will become addicted or psychotic, but we can look at the trends to decide, is this good? Is this good for society? Is this good as an individual? Is this good for you? Others end up with mental illness and complete life change and relationship change and physical health change or mental illness change. It's really something that needs to be talked about. So I deal with relationships. So some of the things that have come up with people that have talked to me about pot is some of the questions you might be asking yourself is, how can you be upset about somebody's pot use when you drink alcohol or when you tolerate alcohol use in your house? You drink wine with your dinners, but you're like, no pot smoking in my house, or I don't want any pot smoking in my house, or I'm mad at you for smoking pot, son, but you can have a beer with dad because you're 21 or 18 or whatever. How do you justify that? Can you have different boundaries with alcohol use than with marijuana use in your relationship and in your home? Why should it bother you to have somebody smoking pot around your kids? Should it? But maybe doesn't bother you if somebody has a beer around your kids because it's normalized too, right? But most people that I talk to, a lot of people still is not normalized. It does bother them more. Should you be worried about somebody driving under the influence of marijuana? What boundaries can you have, even though it's legal, with your son, with your spouse, with your partner, with your parent? What boundaries can you have with a loved one who is using it as a medical treatment for pain or anxiety or depression? What should you think about that? Well, to answer questions like that confidently, like with any issue that you're dealing with, whether it's abuse, narcissism, any mental illness, or any type of disorder problem, you need to understand it. So you need to do some research. This was hopefully the beginning of the idea that maybe figure out, is there really okay? Can you take a stronger stand if it's really not okay? So it's good for you to know what pot use, what does it mean? How is it affected with, how does it affect mental illness and your brain and lifestyle? And how many people get addicted and what does addiction look like? Also, medical marijuana is not approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration, which means that there's no formal protocol by doctors to dispense it or write prescriptions for it. It's not It has not had the required double-blind studies, the randomized tests where they have the control groups, and where they have outside analysts to look at the data to make sure that it was done right. There's no control over the manufacturer or with dosing. The user is the one that decides how much to smoke. And that's not true. A doctor does not give you a bottle of pills and say, take as many of these as you want to. Whenever you feel like that's enough, that's enough. They would never do that. They tell you exactly how many to take, how often, how many hours between. But this is different with pot because pot is not an approved medical treatment. It's just been allowed by the legislature. So it's by some states, and federal government still is illegal substance. So it's a little bit different when you're treating it. And there's not a lot. The studies also are inconsistent and not a ton in terms of how it helps with pain or with other types of treatments. Some doctors use it for cancer patients. I mean, I'm not going to judge that. But just like you can set boundaries with anything else in your life, you can set boundaries with pot. You can set boundaries with alcohol. If you are not comfortable with having pot smoked in your house or with being in a relationship with somebody that's smoking pot or to promote your child's lifestyle or support your child's lifestyle if they're smoking pot, that's okay. It's up to you. Your boundary is what you're willing to do and not willing to do. You don't have to convince somebody. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to explain it. If it bugs you and you don't like it and you're not willing to support it, fine. That's up to you. Nobody else gets to tell you you're wrong. You just got to figure it out. Do I feel strong enough about that? Does it bother me enough? I wouldn't want it smoked in my home. I wouldn't want it smoked in front of my kids or grandkids. I do feel differently about it than alcohol. I personally feel like it's more dangerous, but I don't really like a ton of alcohol either. So if it bothers you, then it bothers you, and you get to decide what lines are you willing to draw, what price are you willing to pay, what are you willing to say, I'm not doing this, or I'm doing this. And yes, driving under the influence of pot is illegal. Any drug, legal, prescribed, or illegal, any substance, if you're driving under the influence, you can get a driving under the influence ticket and go to jail. So the other thing is a lot of times people will say that they can be sober even though they're smoking pot, because if their drug of choice, or if they're an alcoholic and they can't control their alcohol use, but they're not drinking and they're smoking pot, then they can say, I'm sober. And I disagree. I don't buy that. Sober means being of right mind. It means being not under the influence of substances. So you are not sober if you are drinking alcohol to a point where you are affected by it at all. And same thing with pot. So, and I always ask those people, if you want to be sober, and if you're proud about being sober from not drinking alcohol, why would you want to be high? Why would you not want to be of a sober mind? And pot is a substance that is designed to help you not be in a clear mind and in a sober mind. So it makes no sense to me. Again, to all those questions, you get to decide what is right for you and not right for you, and what you're willing to live with and not live with. And a couple of scriptures, 1 Peter 5:8-9 says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of suffering. You cannot do that if you are high. Now, I know some of the people doing this are not Christians, but I'm just saying, sober mind means you're alert and aware and you can live life. Next one, Proverbs 21, wine 20, verse 1. Wine is a mocker and beer a brawler. Whoever is led astray by them is not wise. Wine and marijuana are not wise choices. Both have negative side effects. 1 Corinthians 10, 23 through 24. I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. So you can say you have a right to do it, but is it good for you? Is it good for your life? Is it good for your relationship? Is it good for your children? That's what I ask. Is it really good for you? And are you really willing to say that it's okay if it's not good for you? So I'm going to put the link to this article. The article is entitled High THC Cannabis Products Linked to Immediate Psychosis and Addiction. It is based on a review of 99 studies involving more than 220,000 people. Pretty good group of people. So I'm also going to put the link to a video on detaching from alcoholic and drug use. And that will be helpful for you also to look at that, what's involved with that. So thank you for watching, and God bless you. And I hope you'll consider, if you're dealing with somebody who's really struggling with addiction, my classes are really helpful. The 10 life-saving principles for women in difficult marriages, and also the transforming difficult relationships is for any relationship. And those are must have principles for dealing with anybody's drug use, substance use, addiction, even behavior addiction like sex addiction. So I hope you'll check those out. God bless you.